And I think, first of all, we have technology. So, Ms. Mann, would you like to open that, please?
Sure, I will call the technology committee meeting to order and turn it over to Mr. Hill.
All right, good evening, everybody. What I have on the agenda tonight is the first item is E-Rate. E-Rate started they have a competitive program. It's a pilot program. It'll be a 3-year program for cybersecurity. Again, this is a competitive program, so you're not guaranteed to have participation in it, but we did fill out an application and apply for this program. If we are chosen, the things that we applied for are endpoint protection, monitoring, detection, and response solution. And again, this is through the E-Rate system. Currently, E-Rate only does they have a category 1, category 2, which is our network infrastructure, and then our connection for the internet. So this is something that they are trying over the next 3 years. And part of this program is they're looking for participants to kind of like gather data to see if they can make this a permanent E-Rate program. So just wanted to let the board know that we did apply for that. Again, it is going to be very limited participation. I think our chances of getting it are probably very slim, but you know, it's money available, so we might as well give it a shot. Does anybody have any questions about that? No? Nope. All right, second thing I have on here is the, and this is kind of like between myself and Mr. Mann for the buildings and ground, but we wanted to let you know that the high school auditorium sound system project is complete. The sound system was installed. They did a calibration of the system, and maintenance also installed sound panels on both walls. And Mr. Hawes was a big part of this project of organizing, working with the Keystone Fire that did the project. And I personally heard it. I think it's a big improvement. It sounded really well. So I think it's a huge improvement, and I think we'll see at our upcoming musicals. It's going to make a big difference. Do you have anything to add on that?
No, you hit everything right on the head.
Okay. Any questions about the high school sound system? The final thing I have on the agenda for tonight is the high school paging system. Again, this was a kind of a project between maintenance and technology. Both of us had a role in this. So technology and maintenance, first thing we had to do is we found some problems with some speakers and wiring throughout some of the areas of the building at the high school. So technology and maintenance worked together to get those problems resolved. Keystone Fire, again, was the ones that did this project, so they came out and installed the new system, and they did the installation. Again, they had to go through and do some sound checks throughout the entire building and adjust the audio levels and all that good stuff. But the installation is now complete, and the staff was trained on the system as well, so that's full functioning. Again, Mr. Hawes had a lot to do with that, with the organization and working with Keystone Fire, so he did a tremendous job again. And it's a very nice system. Has a lot of expandability built into it. It's an IP-based system, so it connects to our network. So it really has a lot of flexibility. So it's the kind of system that I think we're going to get a lot of years of use out of, and we have some flexibility in the future. So a very nice system. And while we're talking about the high school paging system, just to give you an idea where we're at the age of the other systems, the Peters-Rollins system, we don't know the exact date, but it's somewhere pre-1993, just to give you an idea about when it was installed, roughly. Okay, we don't know exact year, but it is, we think it's before 1993, sometime in that time frame. So that is currently the oldest system that we have. The next oldest system is the middle school Rollins system. And that is estimated that it was probably installed somewhere between 1998 and 2001 time frame. So that's the middle school. And then the newest one that we have is the Slatington Elementary Rollins system, and that was put in sometime around 2010-11 time frame. Just to kind of give you an idea where we're at on the time, and I think that also comes up in the presentation later on. So. Does anybody have any questions about the paging systems? Okay, that's all I have for technology. Thank you.
Okay, if there are no questions, I close the technology committee meeting and turn it over to Mr. Chrisman.
No, wait. Rhonda Francis, co-chair here.
Oh, scary. I'm so sorry.
You're on a roll, baby. Don't quit now. Yeah.
Okay, I'd like to bring the Buildings and Grounds Committee meeting to order.
Thank you very much. So the first on my agenda is we were able to sell the large tractor, which and the bush hog that was never won't be needed anymore because of the fencing down at the baseball project. We were able to get $32,000 for it. It went to another school. It went to Jim Thorpe School District. So they got the tractor, the backhoe, and the mower. With that $32,000, I'm asking the board if I can use $15,946 of it to buy a zero turn and a bagger to help with cutting the new baseball field. We feel the bagger is almost a necessity, being that with it being fenced in, we can't blow it to the inside because we'll hit the infield, and we can't blow it out because we're going to hit the warning track. So there's really no way for us to go with the grass, unless the only way we could do it is possibly double cut it facing to the middle, but then you still run the risk of having that clump in the middle. With the bagger, we wouldn't run into that, as well as, you know, we could use it in the front of the buildings. We wouldn't have grass clippings in the front of the high school, the middle school, leaf cleanup. So there's a lot that you could use the bagger for to just make everything look a lot nicer. Once it's installed, it only takes about 15 minutes to disconnect the bagger. So if we wouldn't need to bag it or take the extra time, you know, to go dump it, if we just want to cut in 15 minutes, they can remove a panel. Actually, I think it's a series of panels, and you could just cut it like normal. So with the board's approval, I'd like to have that on Monday's agenda.
Question.
You had any questions?
Yes.
Yeah.
Where would you dump all the?
So it
Grass
would be
clippings.
where our normal clippings go. So there's a spot behind baseball that we
Okay.
use down in the woods. There's a place up top here that and it's always just grass clippings and leaves. Besides that, there's no garbage being dumped. It would just be grass clippings and leaves. And then it's just biodegradable. You know, it just deteriorates over time. Any other questions? No? Okay. So the second on my agenda, as I think most of you know, I was granted the asbestos grant that I applied for back in May to do the 49,000 square feet of asbestos containing material in the high school. So that's all the mastic below the tiles. Thank you. But with that only covers the asbestos containing material. Mr. Haas, can you click on the first map, please? So there's your ground floor. Everything in yellow is going to be covered under the grant. The areas in pink, which is the new cafeteria and the band room, have newer tile. The grant will not cover that. Can you go to the first floor, please? Again, everything in yellow is going to be covered. Everything in pink is not covered. Second floor, please. Same here. So can you back out and go into the next, first floor? Thank you. So again, here's the first floor. Everything in yellow is going to be covered under the grant. Now, what you see in orange is that orange, brown, and orange, and I think there's maybe some red ceramic tile for the hallways. And then the pink from 215 to 220, that was redone during our science project. So that is the newer tile to begin with. And again, your 221, 222, your main lobby down by the library is newer tile. 207 and art are a little bit older than the library side. So if we would want to do the two areas in the lower level, that's 2,900 square feet. The first floor rooms is 9,215 square feet. The first floor hall is 11,087 square feet. And then the second floor to complete everything would be 2,600 square feet. Now, we don't have any set prices yet because everything still has to go out to bid. So once we get that bid price back, I can bring it forth to you guys again, to everyone, so that you know more of what it would cost to include those rooms. Or would the board like me to just do the grant and we can come and visit this at a later time? The concern is you're going to have some areas with new epoxy flooring and some areas with tile, old VCT tiles, some areas with your ceramic tiles. At this time, without actually sitting down with a contractor, I don't know what a cost savings would be if they would come in once and do everything. So my question to the board is, do we want to pursue this? Should I continue looking at prices to do everything? Or should my bid just be for the areas with the asbestos?
So, me personally, I would probably like to see a comparison. Obviously, if we go bare bones with what's covered by the grant, and then also, you know, maybe even a la carte, like, you know, your high traffic areas down in the hallway, that sees the most foot traffic and eyes.
Is there anything there that you would try to match, or would it all be new?
So my whole, Mr. Haas, can you go to the second floor? So you'd have to back out of this one and go into the map. We can do everything, yeah. My biggest concern is like the second floor. You're gonna have, I mean, I would call that 90% of the floor in epoxy, close to it, and you're gonna have 4 rooms with VCT regular tile. I like to see that in one. And then the ground floor again, you have the old or the newer section of the cafeteria and the band would be those 2 areas. At a minimum, I think that would be the 2 areas I would concentrate most on. I would love to see everything, but I mean, at a minimum, I think those 2 would make sense. But I'm looking for the board for direction on that. And like I said, our bids have to go out next month, and it will come back then in January, and we can visit it then, or...
Do you do tile, like, is tile like the normal flooring what you would do?
So yes, so normal tile is the norm, people to put down VCT, but it's not maintenance free. The epoxy flooring that Dr. Link and I went and saw at Lehigh University is 100% maintenance free. They put it down, it's like concrete. A wet mop is enough to clean that flooring. So we're not stripping and waxing it every summer. You don't have to, so then I don't have to buy stripper, I don't have to buy wax. It doesn't take the time to strip and wax that floor over the summer. It's a wet mop. Every now and then you run a floor machine over it and you're clean. The other area that we're getting then is we're actually getting a 4-inch to a 6-inch cove, which is actually the same as the floor. So it's bringing that epoxy up the wall. So with the flood that we had a couple months ago, it wouldn't have happened. It's like a bathtub inside your school. So it would be 100% covered on that floor. We would have had water in the first floor only because of penetrations. You can't, get every penetration, but it would have been close to 100%. It's like a bathtub. We would have had a pool on the second floor.
So, actually, what you just said, of the floors that we just discussed, were any of them affected by the water issue that we had?
Yes. So it happened on the second floor and ran down onto the first floor.
Does insurance cover any of that?
With the flood, yeah.
So would that go towards what you're looking to do, or is
No,
that separate?
no, that would be separate, yep.
So just a couple points of clarification, to Mr. Mann's comments. Yes, the flood would have still happened, right? Because that was a plumbing issue.
Yep.
The containment would have been much, much easier. Very little water would have made its way from the top floor down to the main floor, where we lost probably about every single ceiling tile in the main hallway and a few classrooms, plus some of the equipment that we have hanging in on the ceilings. We have an opportunity here where we're not going to see funding like this again. This is almost $1 million. Congratulations, Mr. Mann, on your first attempt at writing a grant and receiving over $900,000. That's almost unheard of for a first attempt. We are not going to be able to see this kind of money again for a project like this in the foreseeable future. We've already have within our capital repair line items a little over $200,000 dedicated for this project as well, which we were planning, because remember, part of this grant was a 25% match. Okay, so we already have that kind of tagged in the budget if the board approves this moving forward. Our work now becomes to explore options to see if any companies, once we go out to bid, can bring down the square footage cost to a way where we could potentially do all of the building, each floor, or like the high traffic areas like Mr. Chrisman was saying, or potentially, you know, finish off the complete third floor of the office, or rather of the school. So I think really what we're looking for is direction to continue to go out to bid and see what kind of square foot pricing we can get, and then report back to the committee. Can we do the entire building? Can we do 90% of the building, 80% of the building, or just what's in the yellow?
Do we have any idea at all of price?
That's what
Like ballpark?
So, Mr. Mann, you want to share out the initial square foot cost and then the logic that was behind that?
Okay, so originally when we went out for the quote, or for the grant, I had to get 3 bids. The 3 bids range from $9 a square foot to $18 a square foot. And being that I didn't have a lot of time to bring all these guys out, between when I found out about the grant until I had to have it complete and applied for, was less than 2 months. I couldn't get everyone to come out and do a survey of the building to give me an exact price. Some of them came in low at $9 a square foot, and some went, well, we're not sure exactly how many square feet, you know, the wall space. You know, they knew some of it was on a second floor, some of it was in a basement, you know, getting machinery up and down. So they went on the high side of $18. So it could be as low as $9, and I've seen it as high as $18 a square foot.
And how many square foot?
So to complete everything above what the grant would be, it's about 28,000 square feet. So figure 29,000 square feet. It's 28 and change, and 28,600 and something.
Chris, what does the transition look like from this new stuff to the old? Is there gonna be like a lip there, or are they gonna put strips down?
Yeah, there'll be a transition between the two, but if you keep it as tile, they will bring the epoxy and match the tile. So there won't be a lip. It'll just be a change in color, and that's it.
And material.
And right,
Right.
yeah. Yep. And then with the epoxy flooring, it's Dr. Link and I saw there. We have a stack 2 inches thick of different colors that you can go with. They will even custom make a color for you. But we saw it was a tan. It was light tans, orange, browns. They have a blue quarry. You could actually get it, you know, bulldog colors with blue and gray and white. It's endless.
I think initially when you were talking about it, if the only difference was the color, I would not have been real fond of doing that, because I look at my house and not every room has the same color carpet or tile, and there, you know, you go from carpet to tile or whatever. You make a point with the cleaning those, so I guess I would like to see some numbers, you know, on exactly what it would cost, and also some numbers on. We're talking about stripping that, and you said you do that like almost every year.
That gets done every summer.
Every summer, yeah. What does it cost to do that in terms of labor, material, et cetera? You know, and I'd like to see that. In other words, if if that comes to 25% of what it would cost, then you've convinced me to do it, because in 4 years we made up our money.
Sure.
I understand what I'm saying, yeah, so.
So I can easily get manpower. Now again, the stripper and the wax we use on all the buildings, so I'd have to break what a barrel would cost,
Yeah, just a rough idea, yeah.
And yeah, I can absolutely find that
Okay,
out for you.
I would like to see that before I could go along and approve it, yeah.
Mhm.
Where the
Sure.
dollars actually.
I like that, Matt. Thanks for that, Matt.
I would
Well,
like to
if
see-
we're doing it all, it's gonna, even at $15 a square foot, you're looking at $420,000. So just round figures. I took the 918, 115, so,
Okay, $9 I came up with 233,000.
Yeah.
So
What is the life of this form?
endless.
Okay, then I think when we look at this, we need to extend the cost of what your annual,
Because
not just
and-
1 year.
Yeah. So it's it's like concrete once they install it, but you can damage it. But when you damage it, they come out with new epoxy. They sand out your crack or whatever happened, and they lay new epoxy in it. And you can see a difference because, again, the old floor when you walk on it compared to new stuff. But again, it seals the crack. It's like non-existent.
What kind of warranty?
I don't even know offhand. I don't know year-wise. Again, we haven't talked
Right.
direct with a lot of companies yet to find that out.
I think I would recommend that you give administration permission to go out for bid so we can actually receive the numbers, apples to apples, square footage to square footage. That would be the cost of advertising the bid 3 times. At that point, the committee can make a recommendation to the full board whether they want to how they would like to move forward, I guess if at all. So I guess what we're requesting is to be able to go out to bid so we can get the additional information and then also have time to answer some of the other questions that came up this evening.
I think that's exactly what I was saying. Yes, go out and get the bid, but I gotta see numbers before I can't just say go do it yet. I gotta see some numbers, so that's where I'm at.
Okay. I'm hearing that the board members on the committee are in agreement. I think I'm seeing most heads.
Yes.
Thank you all. Okay, up next, I'm going to give a presentation, a brief presentation on the feasibility study that was presented to all of you at the last board meeting by representatives from our architect, Alloy 5, as well as McClure Company, whom they partner with to make some of these recommendations. So just give me a second here to set this up. Okay, so what I would like to do this evening is review the recommendations and the options that were made by the architect. There will be some additional input from administration, and then we have some questions for the committee as far as what they would like to see administration do for next steps. So a review, some additional input, and then questions for directions for next steps as to what the Buildings and Grounds Committee would like administration to do or not do. So let's go. What we're going to do tonight is we're going to first look at infrastructure improvements. This was covered in the October board meeting. Here, this would be a building by building approach. So kind of what we are currently doing. If something happens at a building where something needs to be repaired, fixed, or replaced, we come up with a priority of which operations happen with the highest level of priority and then in which building. Starting with Peters Elementary School, you'll see here, it's kind of color coded. The things that are in red are the highest priority. down to the things that are in dark green, which are kind of very low priority, and then associated price tag for if the board were to do everything. Okay, so that's a decision that the school board would have to make about how do we want to maintain the buildings if we go with just a capital improvement plan per building. I will note here that although ADA and code compliance is rated the highest at Peters Elementary School, we are grandfathered there, so we're not exposed to liability. However, I will say you're all aware of where we have more and more children coming in, especially at the lower levels, with more severe kind of physical disabilities. So with everything like the ramps, the rails, the doorknobs, we're out of compliance in Peters Elementary School with many of those categories right now. Next would be more of like the interior doors and hardware. Many of those are for like the safety precautions. There are some electrical upgrades that we would need to do. Look at the fire alarm system replacement, and then upgrade the public announcement and clock system, which is what Mr. Hill was talking about a little bit earlier. I believe Peters was the building with the oldest PA system right now. Next, we're looking at replacing the roof. When we did the roofs as part of the ESCO project, Peters was not included in that. Replacing some kitchen equipment. We are working on that. We recently just had our dishwasher installed at Peters Elementary School. I believe that dishwasher is currently up and running.
Not quite yet.
Okay, so it's in the process of being installed and I guess calibrated. Replacing a heat pump, building envelope improvements, and then plumbing fixture replacements. And then the least priority on there is replace the heat pump system. So each one of these comes with a more granular list. I didn't put every single one up there because it would be about 4 or 5 slides, but these are like the buckets of areas of concern for Peters Elementary School. Total cost for those improvements would be anywhere from $12 to $14 million at today's rates. So, if we want to do something right away, we can get an itemized list for that, or an itemized cost for that. If you're looking at, okay, we're going to prioritize this, and let's say plumbing fixture replacement, maybe that occurs in 6, 7, 8, 9 years from now, well then it's going to be whatever the rates are at that time. Okay. Next is Slatington Elementary School. As you recall from the presentation last October, or this past October, Slatington is what I'm going to say is our most, it's a school building that is in the best shape. Okay, so about 2011, there was a massive renovation to the Slatington building and also the addition of the administration building. So here we're looking at about $2.2 to $3.8 million total, spread out over whatever timeline the school board would want to put in place. Priorities would be in the orange there. Looking at HVAC controls. We recently did those, so that is on there, but that's more like you're going to need to start thinking about it now if you're going to want to replace it in X number of years, because it's a significant price tag. All the way through, you'll notice here in the borough schools, we're going to recommend a water softener in each of the buildings. We realize that Slatington borough water, or at least in our buildings, is very hard, and that is what is causing corrosion in some of our plumbing system throughout the borough schools. Again, fire alarm system replacement, and then less of urgency is areas for mechanical condensation, as well as repairing some of the sidewalks. Again, Slatington Elementary School is probably the healthiest of our facilities right now as far as the needs that it would need to have addressed. If we would want to go this route, our next steps would be to determine timelines for what we want to do for each building and which building gets the priorities. Middle school, this is a little bit more complex. If we were to do everything and not consider an addition on the middle school, you're looking at about $12 to $14 million to address the areas in each one of those buckets over whatever timeline the school board would like to establish. Again, domestic water, we have code compliance at the middle school as well, a water softener, the interior doors and hardware, although right now we have a solution in place for all doors have to be able to be locked from the inside or secured from the inside. There's systems that we could put in place that are even better than the ones that we currently have. That's a safety precaution. Fire alarm system replacement, exterior sidewalks, again, the public announcement system and the clock system. Exterior, the metal panels on the exterior of the building are getting stained, they're getting corroded. That's more of an aesthetic look. But again, it's our most forward-facing building in the main campus here. It's the first one people see if they're coming up off of Main Street. Replaced some lighting systems and replaced plumbing fixtures as well. Hot water system, HVAC controls, and the casework and aprons are in pretty decent shape at the middle school right now. If the board would want to consider relocating 6th grade to the middle school, which we'll get into in a little bit, they could also consider these additional items as well while it's being while that construction is happening. That would be to install a water softener there, domestic water system replacements, address any additional ADA or code compliance. If we're going to do that much construction on the middle school, code may obligate us to address any ADA because we're addressing, like a certain percentage or an addition onto the building. We may be required, so we may lose our grandfather status if we do that. Interior doors and hardware, again, electricity upgrades, fire alarm systems. As you go down, we would still want to replace the public announcement system, the clock system, still do metal panels, replace those, replace lighting systems, and replace some of the plumbing fixtures. The stuff that's kind of grayed out there would start to come off the list if we were to do a addition on that building. Okay, at the high school, we're looking at about $14.4 to $16 million total. If we were to address every single category on that item, I'm not going to read through all of those for everybody in attendance tonight, but you'll see kind of a pattern there. Again, ADA is an issue there, although we're currently grandfathered. Installing a water softener, replacing some of the switchboards and transformers, fire alarm system, and then as we get down further to the bottom, things of less urgency are some of the exterior improvements, replacing the air handlers and the chillers and replacing the interior lights. Much of that work was done in our last ESCO project in around 2018. So those slides there highlight kind of areas of concern for each building, as well as cost summative if the board would want to do everything for each one of the categories for each school building. Again, depending on how far out we are from addressing any of those items, that cost could shift based on things like cost of materials and labor. Fieldhouse maintenance in the stadium. Again, electrical upgrades, replacing stadium lights and ADA upgrades. Stadium lights were not touched during the ESCO project. They are not the high efficiency, low cost lights on our light poles in the stadium. Upgrading some of the plumbing fixtures, we are going to have to replace the turf. That one, right now the turf is in, for how old it is. Mr. Geis, when was the turf installed?
August 2012.
So we're pushing 12 years for the turf. That's actually For the shape that it's in, it's actually in really good shape for how old it is, but that's very uncommon. Sooner or later, we're going to have to look at, and probably sooner, at replacing that turf, as well as some press box renovations. The press box is notoriously tight. The HVAC within the press box is not the best, especially for us to be able to keep at temperature control the equipment in there, and then the connectivity with the press box to the scoreboard and some of the other systems that we're running throughout the stadium. Okay, I'm going to transition now into, you're going to see a number of slides, again, just as a review from the presentation in October, and as we get to the end of those slides for the middle school, you're going to see some additional information on some kind of recommendations, things to consider, and then some questions. Right now, just as a review, our current grade level alignment, you know, Peters Elementary School is K-2, they're at about 87% capacity. Slatington Elementary School is 3-6, 93% capacity. Middle school is currently 7th and 8th grade, 75% capacity. 9-12 is 83%, 83% capacity. If we were to do a middle school addition, due to moving the 6th grade class to the middle school, so making it a true middle school model, which is 6th to 8th grade, what would happen is, if we just do that, K-2, Peters Elementary would stay the same. Slatington Elementary School, with the addition of the administration building, would become 3-5. That drops Slatington Elementary School down to about 66% capacity. If we were to put the middle school grades 6 through 8, that would put us at 81% capacity. That would be a grade level realignment and would require an addition. Grades 9 through 12 would remain as is, staying at about 83% capacity. If you recall, during the October presentation, architectural and PDE recommendations are to have your school buildings at about 85% capacity, so you can adjust for bubble years as the different grade levels come through. This is the proposed site plan. The light blue color would be the addition. So a proposed single-story addition, kind of, you know, facing Center Street there, Bulldog Lane. The kind of little bump-out box where that white dot is would be a proposed new library for the entire school. We would also kind of reconfigure some of the traffic patterns, especially for our van drops-offs for children with disabilities. Looking at about an additional 150 students, as well as about an additional 18,500 square foot because of their proposed addition. There's just a little bit more of a picture of what would actually be in those sections. We're looking at some, you know, kind of that, I'm horrible with colors, we'll go light green classrooms are traditional regular education classrooms, more of like the light purple are for classrooms for students with disabilities, so a life skills support classroom, a learning support classroom, some small instructional areas, and then the large blue section would be a proposed new library, part of which would be for makerspace type activities with a focus on science, technology, engineering, and math. Here is the proposed cost, total estimated construction cost. If you do not do the other items that were listed on just the capital improvement slides for the middle school, current dollars, you're looking at about $10.6 to $12.2 million. That would be adjusted depending on how far out, you know, when we actually go out to bid and start locking in prices, if this is the direction the school board would like to go. Those additional costs outlined previously are they're still 7.4 to 9 million. So, what are some of the benefits of moving 6th grade to the middle school? It relieves overcrowding at the Slatington Elementary School. However, if we just do that, it would actually drop at Slatington Elementary School down to about 66% capacity, which is probably not the best use of space for a school building if it's only operating at 66%. We'll come back to that. Aligning curricular needs, establishing a cohesive 6 to 8 middle school structure, enhancing curriculum continuity and grade appropriate programming, and provide more equitable staff and student distribution for principals. Right now, students and staff are not equally distributed throughout the district as far as principal supervision and evaluation goes. Middle school models are traditionally 6 to 8, not just a 7 and 8. We're looking at 6 to 8 so we can do some more traditional teaming and also bring children that are, 6th graders. We're usually looking at about 12 years old, 11, 12 years old into the middle school model. Improving special education continuum of services. Right now, in particular for our most involved students with disabilities, so students, particularly those with the most severe intellectual disabilities, they receive instruction in our life skills classrooms. Right now, that configuration, we actually have to get waivers for the students that are in our life skills classrooms because of the age discrepancies. What I mean by that is we have a life skills classroom at Peters Elementary School. We have a life skills classroom at Slatington Elementary School. There is currently no life skills classroom at the middle school. There is a life skills classroom at the high school. So we're skipping a building level for our students with, again, the most severe intellectual disabilities. Also a number of those students also have what we call low incidence physical disabilities. They have severe physical needs as well. A true continuum of services for those students would be to have a classroom at each school building. I'll check with Mrs. Dada just to verify this, but we have what are currently 7th and 8th graders.
7th grade is here.
Okay, so our 7th grade students that receive life skills instruction is at Slatington Elementary School. And then our 8th grade students up to children which are, well, actually young adults, which are age 21, because the federal and state law says we have to educate that population of students until they're 21 years old. There's also some cases going on right now that 21 may actually become 22. We're waiting to see what the outcome of those cases are. 22 years. So it's potentially that we could have an 8th grader in with a 21-year-old in our life skills classroom at the high school. That does happen. That is not uncommon at all. We are here, this proposed model would make it so they are in the least restrictive environment in the most age-appropriate school building. Mrs. Dada, okay, thank you. Access to dedicated resources, providing specialized middle school resources, including kind of tailored facilities. We're looking at not only just a library, but the maker spaces, and then library access for things like everything from small group instruction, whole group instruction. In a time where we don't have to steal the library for actual classroom instruction, which we've had to do over the years. In other words, we had to take the classroom at the middle school, and that's where we were teaching our essential skills courses and financial literacy courses, which then means the library is not available to other students at that time. What we would do then with the current library is then turn that into, again, an additional space for STEAM type activities, large group instruction, faculty meetings, our coffee and conversations, those type of events. We could take the coffee and conversation, for example, out of the auditorium lobby and actually put it into an established space for kind of meetings and instruction. Okay, access enhanced learning environments, again, the new maker spaces to support our STEEL standards, which are the now required state standards for science instruction, as well as STEM education. And here I already listed some of the benefits to upgrading the library. And then multifunctional LGI space. This would be everything from our essential skills, so CFES is college and careers for every student. That's a curriculum that Mr. Hauser and his team implements there. Our larger classes, a space for clubs, our faculty meetings, and community gatherings. So just kind of, a very high level, surface level conversation about what it makes sense to bring some sixth grade down to the middle school. Some of those are captured in those bullet points there. However, with that possibility comes some kind of questions concerning sixth grade transition to the middle school. And of course, the very first one is, what is the funding plan if we were to put an addition onto the middle school? Will sixth graders be walkers? We know right now our sixth grade students are not walkers. However, if they were to go to if sixth grade would go to the middle school, currently our middle school students are walkers. Also, when we get to SES, you'll see that the potential is there to dramatically impact and how we do our bus runs in the morning and afternoon. Sixth grade curriculum changes. We would need to make sure that we stay ahead of that. So, for example, Slatington Elementary School, Peters Elementary School recently adopted an Amplify CKLA curriculum, which is an English language arts reading curriculum. There is a middle school component to that, which is called Amplify ELA, which is geared more towards our middle level learners. If we were going to do that, it would make sense to have all of our faculty trained in that level and the students receiving that instruction housed under one roof, which would be a 6th, 7th, 8th grade arrangement. We would need to look through what other curriculum impacts are there positively and potentially negatively by putting 6th grade under there. Again, most of the research aligns to having 6th grade in a middle school model. What would be the impact on the day-to-day middle school schedule? We would need to work through that, making sure our students are able to rotate through the specials, our students are able, we have appropriate sized lunches, we have time to prepare the meals for Mrs. Fink in her food services department. So we don't have all the answers, and we don't even have all the questions yet. That's part of our hope for tonight. But here are some of the things that, if the school board would like us to continue to investigate these possibilities, here are some things that we're already thinking about. We're going to give you an opportunity to come up with other questions near the end of the presentation. What would be the impact on staffing? What would it mean for staff? That, everything from, we have some staff members that throughout the year go from the middle school to the high school, or from the high school to the middle school. What does it mean for our specials teachers? Those type of staffing implications. What does it mean for hallway monitors, and what does it mean for cafeteria monitors? Those type of decisions and information that we would need to continue to gather and move forward if the board still wants us to continue to really dig into these options. So that's the middle school. I'm going to follow the same pattern for Slatington Elementary School now. This would be including, so what this really means is bringing Peters Elementary School students, faculty, staff, administration to Slatington Elementary School. All of K-5 would be under one roof. We're looking at, what we want to look at is, what does this do for efficiency for students, parents, staff, and then faculty, staff and faculty and staff. And I'm sorry, ladies and gentlemen, I was redundant there. I looked at this like 20 times and I missed that one. Really, what is the impacts for efficiency for operations, teaching and learning, and for families? What this would look like, again, would be K-5 under one roof. That would put Slatington Elementary School at 81% capacity. Because remember, we would have a void if 6th grade goes to the middle school and that's all we do. If we bring K1 and 2, kind of think of it as 2nd grade backfilling where 6th grade was, and then we would have to expand for kindergarten and 1st grade. 6 to 8, that would be the new middle school configuration. 9 to 12, that would remain the constant at the high school. That would bring us closer to that 85% recommended capacity by the architects and PDE, 81, 81, 83. This is the proposed site layout. To the north there, that would be a 2-story addition for kindergarten, first grade. To the right there, which would be to the east, that little square box, that would be an addition for food services and a cafeteria expansion. We would try to keep, have an area for the youngest learners to have their own area to eat and also be serviced by food services department. The polygon-shaped figure over to the kind of southwest corner of the current building, that would be an expansion for a gym, also an area for when the community comes in to use our facilities at night for the different community groups that use it. We would propose that the existing gym here also be continue to be used for, that's the space that has the stage. That's the space that we hold our large community gatherings whenever there's sort of presentations or the winter musicals, that type of stuff. It's actually what is often referred to as a like a combination of a gym as well as almost like an auditorium, right? That's where we do all of our presentations. What we would propose is that we have a dedicated space for physical education, and then that gym, the current gym, becomes for large gatherings and any sort of the events that we have in there, like the winter musicals for the elementary children, or when we do our senior citizen holiday dinners. Okay, here we're looking at, if they were to do that, if the board would say, yes, we would like to do middle school and then eventually bring Peters over to the main campus here, over to a common campus, you're looking at about $26.8 to $30.2 million for all that work. Same format as the last slide. What we would hope to bring out of this and what we foresee already is that, looking for greater convenience for our families. All of our K-5 children would be on the same schedule. K-5 children could be on a single bus run. We wouldn't have to run a Slatington bus run and then a Peters bus run. Enhanced safety and oversight. I can tell you that administration constantly worries about Peters kind of being out there on an island. God forbid there's somebody that tries to get in there or does actually get in there to do harm to our children and employees. We have one school police officer out there right now. He is amazing. The children love him. Faculty love him. He is one person. Most likely, the next closest law enforcement responders would be our own police force within the district there. We never know how long it takes for state troopers to get in Peters or where they may be in Washington Township. They are great. We have an excellent relationship with the state police. They walk through our buildings often with Officer Probozniak that's stationed out there, but they are not always in a close proximity to Peters Elementary School. If all schools were on one campus, we would have our 4 police officers, Slatington Police Department right within the borough, and Walnut Course Police Department would also be able to respond quickly. Operational and financial efficiencies, again, we would eliminate a run in the morning and in the afternoon dedicated just for Peters Elementary School. We would be able to eliminate the costs associated with the maintenance of Peters Elementary School and the facility upkeep. We would be able to look at streamlining food service logistics with fewer delivery stops. So from our vendors, when they come in, it would be one less place that they would have to deliver food to. And also, Mrs. Fink and the food services department would have all food services employees on one district, because sometimes if people are out because of a leave or an absenteeism or something like that, she has to quickly pull somebody from one kitchen to another kitchen. Well, here, that would be much easier if everybody was in such close proximity. Again, saving on maintenance, everything from groundskeeping, snow removal, and the utilities at Peters. Staff collaboration, increased opportunities for teacher collaboration and shared professional development. Right now, oftentimes when we do professional development, we have to do a session at Slatington and then a session at Peters, or we have to build in travel times for those two groups to come together to get to a common place. Oftentimes when we have all the elementary faculty in one place, it actually becomes a space issue. Here, if we were able to dedicate the gymnasium, for example, the current gymnasium, to like a large group instruction area and get appropriate seating in there, we could use that for professional development. More seamless collaboration among the administrators. Right now, oftentimes, if Mr. Schneiderite is out for whatever reason it is, we got to kind of get somebody over to Peters to give as much coverage as possible, which isn't always possible because they also still have their other departments and buildings to administer over. But at least in this case, we would all be again literally on one campus to provide direct support to each principal. And then expanded student opportunities, flexibility for special education services. Again, this goes back to that continuum of support, as well as sometimes right now our Peters Elementary, the Peters pups don't necessarily always get involved or have the opportunity to join things like maybe go down and visit some of the external things that are going on for when we do our annual career fair. Children at Slatington Elementary School just kind of walk down through the campus to get there. Peters pups don't have that opportunity. We would be able to have our Shined program, which is our after school and our summer program, all on one campus. It would be easier distribution for our Backpack Buddies program. So right now we have about 80 families that we support through to ensure that they have meal security through the weekends and the long holidays. This would allow us, we would not have to send a delivery person out to drop those off every week at Peters Elementary School. It would be all right here. This is the building actually where we prep those Backpack Buddies bags for those children. So again, we're looking at things like efficiency for really everybody involved, as well as expanded opportunities for shared resources. Again, questions and some concerns for Slatington Elementary School is what's the funding plan? Oh my goodness, $30 million. That's a lot of money. We've done the projects like this in the past. We've done the project already over here at Slatington Elementary School. There is ways that we can finance that kind of moving forward, but that would be a conversation we would have to have, and the school board would have to give us direction. What happens to Peters Elementary School? Mr. Chrisman, you brought this up back in October. If we were to go to a common campus model, we would have to make some decisions about what we want to do with Peters Elementary School. It seems like maybe the most pragmatic answer is to put it on the market and see what we can get for it. I don't know. First, we need to see if we even want to go this direction. Again, impacting on staffing. We would have to be very purposeful and very deliberate on designing our traffic patterns for parent drop-off and pickup at a K-5 building, as well as our busing patterns for drop-off and pickup at a K-5 building. We would really have to put we would have to totally revamp that system right now. I know Mr. Briner, that's high on your priority list, and I know you're already thinking about it. So here are the administrative recommendations. We are recommending that we transition to a common campus, get all of our buildings on the one campus, 6 to 8 at the middle school, K to 5 at Slatington Elementary School. That would be a step 1, step 2, multi-year process. It would not be do it all at once, and it would have to be spread out over a good number of years. We would keep the high school at the current 9-12 configuration that would stay status quo. That does not mean that over the years that we could just ignore the high school. We'd also have to make sure that we maintain the structure, facilities, the systems that are in place at the high school. You could consider only transitioning 6th grade to the middle school. This would kind of be our if not, then we would recommend only transitioning the 6th grade to the middle school. Peters Elementary School would stay status quo. We would have to consider then, if sixth grade would go to the middle school, that would mean that we would have an abundance of space at the middle school. We would have to look at things at leasing that available space at Slatington Elementary School, leasing that available space possibly to other educational entities. There are models out there for that. That would be like maybe some of the private providers for our outplacements. We would be a host site for them, and we would lease our space to them. We could look at partnering with the IU to see if they would want to open up any additional classrooms. Although when you do it with the IU, that's not generating any revenue. That's just what is called fair share. We currently do that right now. In this option, again, the high school would stay status quo. Or you could only address the needs as described in the infrastructure improvement recommendations. That was that first handful of slides broken out by building. We can continue just kind of doing that, what is sometimes referred to as like the break-fix approach. Try to maintain what you have in the current configuration. Proactively maintain things. If something fails, then you got a plan to fix that. So transition to a common campus, step 1, step 2 within that. Only transition sixth grade to the middle school, or continue to address the buildings in the current configuration, planning for major improvements throughout the years. So, questions for the committee, for our board members on the committee this evening. Should administration continue to investigate a common campus model? Should we just investigate a 6 to 8 configuration? Should we just consider infrastructure improvement recommendations? Or should we continue to really look at all options and continue to bring information back to the Buildings and Grounds Committee? And then also, what specific questions does the committee have for administration? So I'll open it up to the committee. Mr. Crispin.
All right, so bear with me, I got quite a few questions.
Okay, so I'm sorry, I should have prefaced this. Right now, we're just collecting questions. I'm not looking to answer questions. We're looking to collect questions and bring information back. Dr. Stoker is going to record the questions as we go.
Okay.
Okay, thank you, sir.
So, basically, I want to know a total cost. Like, if we were about to do everything from top to bottom, do a campus on one site, what's it going to cost? I know we had the numbers here. I was trying to add it up here. Just the, was it 30.2 for the addition for Slatington Elementary, and then 12.2 for the middle school, right? The maximum numbers.
Yep.
I'm going to the maximum side.
Yes.
Now those maximum numbers do not. If we do those, then the smaller numbers go away. Am I tracking with that?
Many of the smaller numbers would go away.
Okay.
Not all of them. There would be certain parts of the buildings that wouldn't be touched, and there may be elements within those parts that are not part of the renovations or additions that we still have to maintain.
Okay. So that's part of my question. If we're gonna go the top option, consolidating to a common campus, does that 30 million, because it was 2.2 to 3.8, is that then on the lower side of the 2.2 plus the 30.2?
Most likely, because per our architects, some of those things would be addressed via the construction project.
Okay. All right. So, all right. So what that actual total number then is? Just when I did the numbers without the additions, we were over 54 million. I didn't add in the additions cost there. Obviously the biggest question is funding. Sure. We're in a very taxpayer-heavy environment. I start seeing numbers like that, and I don't know. That's got impacts for decades, not just a couple of years. On one hand, I understand consolidating to bring to a common campus. I get that. But then the other thing is, as far as staffing goes, So all the staff at Peters Elementary, principal on down,
Yes.
will come to Slatterton Elementary.
We are recommending them to be able to continue to supervise and educate that total number of children, that they would have to come here as well.
I mean, I probably understand why teachers would have to, they'd have to follow the students. But if you're doing that, is there not room to get rid of some administration to cut some costs?
Over 800 children, grades K through 5, in one school building, I would not recommend that.
I'll have more, but let someone else talk.
Dr. Stoker, did you get those? Okay. Thank you, Mr. Chrisman. Mrs. France?
If we decide to do something piecemeal, which at this point, I don't know that I'm in favor of, but could we see the breakdown, like of each of those things, like what it would cost to do what's in the red, what it would cost to do what's in the orange, what it would cost? So if we decide to piecemeal it and take care of the worst things first, what would that cost?
Per building?
Yes.
Yes, we can get that information for you.
Because if you're looking at 54 million total, but to do the red, you're looking at 40. Not that 14 million is not a lot of money, because it is, but at that point, do we bring everything all the way up? Because to fix the worst, it's gonna cost us the majority of what will cost us to do the whole thing anyway. I would like to see that broken down so that we know.
Yes.
Okay, and then the other question I have is, when you said about bringing the kids from Peters in here, you said eliminating a bus run. Would you not have to add buses?
We would probably have to add buses. Transportation department's still looking at that. But what we would be eliminating is the time and mileage for the morning
Understood.
AM run and the afternoon run.
Understood, but
Yep.
you would still have to probably add buses,
Yes,
even up to possibly doubling the number of buses?
I don't believe so,
Okay,
but we'll look into that.
okay,
Yeah.
and then my same question applies to the middle school. If you decide that those children are not walkers, that would be additional buses there as well.
Yeah, none of our buses are currently at full capacity. So the number of buses, what we would have to work through is how many buses would have to be added. So, yeah, that's information, that's actually stuff that we're already trying to do the math
Okay.
on. Dr. Stoker? Good. Mr. Chrisman?
All right, sorry, I got some more. So if we do the consolidation, the plans for Peters Elementary, I know we briefly talked about this. Peters Elementary, I mean, the plan, like you said, would be to test the market, see what we can get for it. But in the meantime, we'll still have some maintenance that has to be done up until the sale. Has there been any research done to see like what something like that would go for in the market? What's the market value for an old school building?
I don't know the answer to that, but I'm sure that we can find it out with, connect with a realtor. I'm comfortable sharing an experience I had in the years that I worked in Kutztown Area School District. Some of you, if you're familiar with that part of Berks County, there was a school called Albany Elementary School, kind of like a little bit south of Hawk Mountain. We closed Albany Elementary School, sold it, and I think we got a few $100,000 for it. I know that they're currently closing Maxitawny Elementary School, which is right near the intersection of 222 and Long Lane Road, right by Camilla's out there in Maxitawny Township. That site is currently serving as their administration building. Closed as a school years ago. They brought all of administration there and then leased out some of the classrooms to like early learning centers. Don't quote me on this, but I believe that they're looking at closer to $1 million for that property. So those are just examples of the range. We would have to connect with a realtor to say, what do you think we could get with this? For this?
Now, the other part of that is, there's, I guess, some assumed risk in there, you know, with some competitor like Charter taking that building over. At that point, would the building be taxable to the township, or will they carry a similar tax exempt?
We would have to follow whatever code is in place for whatever goes in there. And I do not believe we can discriminate as to what goes in there. So in other words, if a charter school wanted to go in there and they had the highest bid, I don't know that we can say no. If some sort of like private assisted living place wanted to go in there, I don't know that we could say no, but that would probably be taxable. If it was a private one. When it gets into like some of these healthcare satellite providers, they're considered nonprofit. I struggle with that classification, but they're considered nonprofit. There's other, you know, it could be something like light industry. Well, then we're going to look at that would go back to taxable. So really it depends on the status of whoever the high bidder is, or whatever category they fall into.
I was just asking those because, I mean, depending on what happens with that building, it may or may not have a positive impact on our taxable structure within the Northern Lehigh community, which may or may not impact future raises or not. Okay. Yeah, that's it for now.
The impact on staffing going from an elementary school to a middle school, as far as certifications are concerned, I'm a little rusty on that. So, you know, I'm out 8 years now. So what impact would that have on existing staff? Now, obviously you have attrition, I get that. But in transition, you're impacting a bunch of employees, plus the fact you're going to have to add to a true middle school, with something I'm very akin to have a true middle school program. You're going to be adding all of the elective type classes that are going to be needed, you know, to make a well-rounded middle school education. I know when I was at my former district and we built a middle school, which I can't believe was only $11 million in today's, it's amazing. Costs have doubled and tripled in, my goodness, in like 15 years. The impact on staff was tremendous. If you're going to do a true middle school concept, which involves teams and full teams, not sharing, we're talking teaming, the right way to do it. It's not inexpensive, is what I'm going to say. I think we ended up adding, now we're a bigger district, I think we ended up adding somewhere in the neighborhood of 18 staff members to accomplish that. So that would be, I'd like to see that impact. And again, I'm not sure about certifications and who has what and who can transfer where and all of that. I also would see the need as a full-time assistant principal at the middle school if you're going to add a whole grade. There's absolutely no way an assistant principal can go high school, middle school, and have the building principal act as that liaison assistant principal when you're adding a whole grade. It's a lot of kids, it's a lot of parents, it's a lot of different issues. So there might be more costs for administration, so not less. I would like to see a comparison of, so we're eliminating a building, what would the savings be with bus runs, with maintenance, although we're maintaining a larger building, what does that savings look like? So that we can evaluate that, maybe the cost and how much time it's gonna take us to, you know, our net savings. Although you don't make improvements like this just for savings, for taxpayers, I hate to say that. You're doing it for educational purposes. And although I see value in what we're trying to do, I also need to be realistic on where I live. So that's kind of my thoughts.
Yeah, absolutely, Mr. Kern. As far as the certifications go, we would have to dig into what's called the CPSGs.
Yep.
Which are the certification categories.
Right.
You're well aware of them.
Yeah.
You know, are they K to 5, are they K to 6, are they K to 8, is it middle level? Some of them are actually K to 12.
Correct.
So kind of looking at all those configurations. I don't think by any means would we say that overnight, if 6th grade were to go to the middle school, that it's like a, that the curriculum and the schedule and the instruction is not going to also continue to evolve. We do that now in the current configuration, right? We're constantly looking at our resources, the curriculum we want to bring in, and what type of schedules we want to run. I mean, most recently we did that with the lunch and learn model at the high school. So yes, to all of your questions, we need to continue to get that
Right.
information.
There's a lot to absorb here.
Yeah.
You know, as far as administration, you could go with a dean of students. There's a lot
Yeah,
of ways to
There's options.
supplement that.
You know, so right now we have a principal that is by himself doing 4 grade levels.
Correct. That I understand.
Right. So there are other options like dean of students, which is not an administrator, but it's a association. It's a teacher association
Right.
membership. So because what I would not want to see happen is if buildings were reconfigured, grade spans were reconfigured, you know, that we actually take a step back in operations. We're only, you know, we want to make sure that we become more effective in teaching and learning if we do this.
It's a big decision, and it's huge. And
It
it's
is.
impacting everybody.
100%. It's not a decision that I'm expecting to make tonight, next month.
Correct.
You know, nothing like that. We have a lot of work to do yet, but I think
I wouldn't have a home if we did.
yeah, I think administration wants to know, you know, hey, listen, if we don't want to do any of it, you know, then we know that we're defaulting to the capital plan,
Right.
the capital improvement plan. But if you want to know more, we will absolutely continue to put our energy into exploring all possibilities and then what the impact is on the community.
I mean, I'm very excited about the strides we're making educationally. And obviously, the system we have in place in a lot of ways is antiquated. It really is. And not conducive to really getting our staff as one. I mean, it's spread out. It's easier if we're connected. I'm not saying it's impossible what we're doing, but certainly it's harder to advance what we need to do. But there's a cost associated with it, so anyway, we'll go from there. That's my feelings anyway.
I think obviously from an educational perspective and also from a safety perspective, and I don't know how you put a number on the safety perspective. You know, what are we gonna say if something happens out there? I don't know. You know, I can't answer that question. But I think, and I hope this goes without saying, that the board decides where we ultimately want to go, you know, 2, 3, 5, 10 years down the road before we start to make decisions. For example, if I'm incorrect, didn't we just spend a whole bunch of money putting a new dishwasher out in Peters, and now if we wind up moving out of Peters in 3 years, so we've got to stop making those kinds of decisions if our overall decision is to move forward with option 1. You know, we got to stop doing some minor repairs, shall we call them, and those kind of changes if we're ultimately going to abandon that building. We can't keep spending money out there, and we have to make sure the things we are doing have a long-range effect and not just something that we're doing today to patch a hole in the wall. So that's my feeling. I would like to see it, but I would like to see some of the numbers that Mr. Chrisman asked for and Ms. Rance asked for. I think we're still, you know, not days, not weeks, but probably months away from making those kinds of decisions, and we have to take it slowly. But I would like to see us keep moving and getting some of those numbers. So.
You raise a good point, Mr. Green. So, for example, like the dishwasher, you know, one of the first questions we asked that contractor was, we may need to be able to move this and relocate it and reinstall it. He said, yeah, no problem.
Okay.
You know, most recently, the school board in Washington Township approved a digital LED digital lights to go out in front of Peters Elementary School. Well, we weren't going to consider that unless we knew it could be repurposed over to the main campus here. So we're kind of thinking about those things, but you know, to your point, there's going to come a time when we need to say we shouldn't be thinking about those things, if the direction is to go to a common campus.
Yeah, I'm glad to hear you're thinking of that. That's good to hear, so. So I guess what I'm saying, Ms. Rons, is I would like to see us continue to gather information based on the questions that were asked tonight and you know, start to just get all the information we can together and make a decision based on as much information as we can get. That's my opinion.
I agree with that. I think we need to have as much information as we can get so we can make a truly informed decision. And I also think it's very important that the public knows no decision has been made at this point. After the last meeting, people were saying we're selling Peters, we're doing this. I think the public needs to know absolutely no decision has been made, and it will not be made until we get the information that we need. I just think.
I also think we need public input as well. So, and I agree. Yes, no decisions are being made at all.
Anytime soon.
Yes. But
So traditionally, to your point, Mr. Kern and Mrs. Francis, you know, if we continue to explore these options, part of that process is developing surveys to go out to different groups.
Right.
You know, homeowners, parents, you know, those employees. I don't, you know, that we're yet at that point. I think we need to do a lot of information collecting to be able to appropriately develop those surveys. But that is part of a long-term process like this.
Matt, you had mentioned before about a capital campaign or something that would be possibly developed. Can you share any information about how that might help?
Sure. So that is actually unrelated to this.
Oh, that's unrelated.
Unrelated, but kind of tangentially connected. Okay. So that's clear as mud, right? What I mean by that is our education foundation, which is its own entity, the Northern Lehigh Education Foundation, is working on launching a capital campaign where we could, you know, not necessarily address things like putting a wing on the middle school, but maybe addressing things like ensuring, like, we have 2 buildings right now that have courtyards, Slatington Elementary School and the middle school, which are remarkable spaces, but they're probably being underutilized. What can we do to better prepare those areas to incorporate them more closely to teaching and learning? We have a fledgling astronomy program at the middle school, which the foundation has fully funded. We have the equipment, now we're looking at to maybe clean up that space some and be able to maintain it long-term to use that equipment. Mr. Hauser has already hosted some community events with that donated equipment. At Slatington Elementary School, we have the space over here, and we have a garden club, but they kind of struggle to keep the growing areas, you know, in a way that it's easy for the children to engage with them. What happens if we were to kind of actually put in like planting boxes, stuff like that, put in some vegetation that supports local pollinators, that type of stuff. We have I'm sure you're all aware that we have a defunct tennis court behind Slatington Elementary School. The foundation is really looking at us going out to launch this capital campaign to see if we can connect with some rather large donors to help us revitalize that tennis court and maybe make it into not just tennis courts, but make it into like pickleball courts, tennis courts, basketball courts, a bocce ball, which is like, those are like unified sports where we can really include our children with disabilities, our students with disabilities, especially physical disabilities, but then at designated points open it up to the community so they can enjoy the access of, you know, if they want to play pickleball, if we want to host a clinic, something like that. It would be right here on our campus. We already are in conversation with a couple donors that may want to fund those type of projects for the school district. So they are capital improvements, Mrs. Culp, but not necessarily the ones that are listed in the presentation I just gave, but they are absolutely ways to improve our buildings and grounds, not only for our students and employees, but for the community. And we're looking to do it in a way that's not at cost to the district. They may partner with some things. An example is, you know, so earlier Mr. Hill spoke about the upgrades to our sound system at the high school auditorium. Well, our foundation paid for all those wireless microphones. They paid for something else over there, which escapes me right now. So they're supporting it, like the work that we're already trying to do.
But not the,
If we were, there's interest from the foundation on ensuring that Bulldog Stadium remains a place for the community to come together for generations to come. So, how can they help us do things like maybe matching funds for turf or the track surface or press box expansion, or to upgrade our scoreboard, where our scoreboard could actually become a significant revenue generator for us. So that's why I said it's not part of this presentation, but a little bit connected, as they would do smaller partner projects.
I'm just concerned about the overall cost, but
Sure.
we know where we're at, so. But thanks for that explanation.
Yeah, I will say that our foundation is really revitalized and doing a lot of good things for our schools and our students here.
Just to bring Mrs. Snyder up to date, we've been talking about the
I've been
renovation
following
project,
it.
and the board decided to spend like $48 million on it. So I just wanted to bring it on.
I was
board with
listening
that.
on YouTube,
Yeah.
so I'm on.
That's coming out of her pay though, right?
So I think what I'm hearing is the board members on the committee are comfortable with administration continuing to explore these, trying to actually, answering the questions that were asked tonight, and continuing to come back with information to the point where, you are ready to give us some, kind of solid direction.
Matt, excuse me, how come the fire systems have to be upgraded? I noticed that for all 4 of the schools.
Just like all systems, they have a life expectancy. The actual products, materials, software, eventually are just either become outdated, they don't speak to the other systems, or the actual hardware wiring.
Okay, but we're okay for now?
Yes.
For everything?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
That's a really great question, Mrs. Culp. I actually asked our architects that as well, and they said anything that has to do with ADA or like safety and security, they always rank orange or red. Not that it's like, hey, you need to do this by next month, but it's like you always have to be thinking about this and preparing to say, hey, now we want to do the middle school this year and we want to do the high school the next year, and kind of have a plan in place to address those type of systems.
Okay, as long as we're okay for now.
Yes. Okay, thank you, everyone. I think that gives administration the direction that we were looking for. We will continue to, explore options and bring back information. And
That's it.
That's it.
that concludes my presentation this evening for Buildings and Grounds.
If there are no questions, I will close the Building and Grounds meeting and turn it over to Mrs. Culp.
We'll go ahead and finance committee meeting, and we'll start with Nikki.
Thank you. So we had started our Backpack Buddies program back up at the last week of October, and we are now, we were in the 80s, now we are up to 92 specifically of students that we are making food for the weekend. And we just, continue to add whoever is in need to our list, and each week, that number will likely go up. The second thing I had on the list tonight was I had recently applied for a breakfast expansion grant. So not like the annual food service equipment grant from PDE. This was a mini grant essentially that's focused specifically on breakfast and how can you expand your program and increase your participation in students receiving a free breakfast. We did just recently get notified that we will be granted $8,750, which I am planning on purchasing mobile breakfast carts just to help with, over the last couple years, we've had so many different meal service styles that we're doing to accommodate the students and accommodate the schedules at each school. And they're just good to have, let's just say, if we can't always serve in the cafeteria and we need to serve out in the hallway and things like that. So that's what those funds will be dedicated for. There's other various types of meal service, like second chance breakfast or breakfast in the classroom type models of meal service. So it'll just give us the opportunity to expand, specifically at Slatington Elementary. So you had to specify what school you wanted this equipment for, and that was the school of choice, just largest population there. Our breakfast numbers, could improve there specifically. And yeah, so that's very exciting. We just found that out last week, actually. And then we have our Thanksgiving meal for students and staff coming up on November 13th. That's a Wednesday. Our Christmas meal will also be on a Wednesday this year, December 11th. And I just put out a message for people to sign up for filling, to buy our filling. The ladies do a great job putting together or doing filling every year, and we have been selling it every year since I've been here. So we have 2.5 pound containers that run $8 each. So if you're interested, let me know. So that went out. We are going to close the deadline for that sign up this Friday, and then we're going to make and distribute the filling the week leading up to Thanksgiving. And that's pretty much all I had. Just a lot of exciting holiday stuff ahead.
When's the senior dinner or the senior luncheon?
That I believe is the December 10th. It's the first or second Tuesday of the month. Second Tuesday of the month.
Okay, I just didn't know the date.
Yes, December 10th.
Okay.
Yeah, for the senior citizen meal.
I think that's great about the grant.
Yeah. Yeah.
Take some
I
money.
was excited about that. So it'll help get a couple extra pieces of equipment for us.
I agree. Congratulations on obtaining that grant. It's going to be good for our students, good for the food services department. I would also just like to acknowledge Mrs. Fink shared that, about our Backpack Buddies program to make sure that our students are not struggling with any sort of meal insecurity. That is fully funded through a donation. That's not coming out of the cafeteria budget. That's fully funded through a donation from the Lehigh Valley Educators Credit Union. Every year for the last number of years, they've given us $10,000 for that program. So thank you to the credit union as well.
I guess the rest is for you, Sherry. Resolutions?
Yep, it's short and sweet. Every year, this time of the year, once we approve for Portnoy to collect our delinquent real estate taxes, which was approved on last month's agenda. This month, there will be 2 resolutions on the agenda to approve Northampton County and Lehigh County not to collect their delinquent real estate taxes. So we have to do a resolution, and then we forward that on to them, directing them not to collect them. So that will be on Monday evening's board agenda for approval. And just on a side note, I still don't have any of my audit numbers back. They should be back by the end of this week, I'm told. So I will, once I get them, I will do a board update with that information. That's all I have.
For finance, we will turn the education committee to Mr. Kern.
All right, let's open up the education committee meeting. We'll start with literacy night. Mr. Pine.
It's just a quick update. I know we talked about this in the past. We did hold our parent literacy night earlier in the month. Well, it was November, last month. I'm going to ask Mr. Briner if he has any input on this, but I think it was successful. I think it was successful.
He left. He went home,
as we planned it, we had these sort of notions of a packed house and 50, 100 parents showing up. But it was happy. We had double digits show up. We had 15 register and then another 7 register to attend online. To be honest, I actually don't know who attended online. I saw people kind of pop in and out a bit, but I think it was less than registered. And we came in at about, I think it's 13 in attendance within the room. The whole presentation, like I said, it was in person and virtual. We had our reading specialist give a background of structured literacy, and then we had a demonstration, sort of a classroom activity of what students experience within a structured literacy program, as well as insights then from each of the principals and then from a couple of teachers in terms of what they're seeing in the classroom classroom. Some of our teachers were actually a little nervous about coming out and talking about it because it's only a couple of months in, and they want more time. So I really do appreciate the brave individuals who we had who came out and were just willing to talk about what they're seeing right now and kind of give that sort of insight to our parents. I don't know.
Yeah, thanks, Mr. Prine. I felt like it was a very good night. We had some good conversations, some good questions from parents. I think we gave them a lot of information, so there was a lot of information to process in the evening. But our teachers really did the heavy lift, quite honestly, in terms of sharing their experiences and sharing the information that they're seeing with the program thus far. We strategically kind of timed it so that with the launch in the beginning of the school year, kind of doing a literacy night, and then coming up this month we have parent-teacher conferences. So we're trying to almost do it like a little bit each month to launch into the new program. But overall, I think it was a successful evening.
So we do also have the literacy website now up on our website, and we also put a video out that kind of was a little bit more of a formal walkthrough and explanation of structured literacy and the Amplify program. Specifically, I did record the meeting that we had for our literacy night. Unfortunately, it wasn't until the next morning that I went back and reviewed it, and it's absolute garbage. So everything was very garbled. It was not that way. I actually checked the next day. Yeah.
So I participated in the virtual option, and it was clear in a virtual option. Unfortunately, the recording just didn't capture it.
Yeah. So that was really unfortunate because I was looking forward to just kind of cleaning that up a little bit, but then putting that out so that way everyone would have access to it in general. I mean, I know Ms. Williams, you were there. I don't know if you have anything to add to that.
No, I was going to say I did attend, and I thought it was a wonderful presentation. Because I was a little leery about the new program, and just seeing the teachers speak about it, I felt more comfortable. That they enjoyed it, they liked it. Every time you kind of like present it to us, but until you hear a teacher say, how their students love it, how they're using it, I think I changed my opinion of it. But I thought you guys did wonderful. I just thought it was a wonderful night.
Great. And we'll have to make a point to make that happen more for
Yeah.
you over the course of this year, because I have to say when we selected it last year, that was one of the most powerful things for us, was hearing teachers talk about it and talk about what they were experiencing with their kids in the classroom. I mean, you all heard that from me last year, but I think hearing it from our teachers here, I think we have to make that happen for you this year.
And the parents too.
Yes.
I mean, when the parents are coming, saying about how their students are using it and they're enjoying it, that's nice to hear.
Yeah.
But it's wonderful that you did such a presentation like that. Like I said, it changed my opinion of it.
Good. Glad to hear that. Thanks. I mean, if there are any questions, but otherwise, I just wanted to give you an update.
Okay, thank you. Dr. Sucker?
Sure. The next one is personal finance course. We've been waiting for the state to release additional information in this area, and it's taken a little bit of time, but they have created a personal finance toolkit. The link is in the agenda. That'll take you out to PDE SAS's website. And if you click on these kind of tabs over on the left-hand side, it'll give you some more. And this is really where all of this information comes from. In addition, the IU has been sharing out the information and having discussions with different networking groups as well. Generally, the information that you'll find in that PDE SAS toolkit says that this will be implemented for the 26-27 school year. We are required to have this at the 9th through 12th grade level. It has to be a standalone course, so it cannot be part of another course. It can be half a credit, a full credit. We can make that determination. We can also determine if we want that to be if we want that to add on to how many graduation credits we have, or if we want it to replace something else. Teacher certifications that can teach the course, you can see them all there. This is the first time, I think, ever in Pennsylvania where they are saying that a business teacher can teach this course, but it can count for math credit. Or a math teacher can count this course and or teach the course, and it can count for social studies credit. I don't know that we feel comfortable as an administration with that, so we've had conversations that if we are going to offer it in different realms, we would have the appropriately certified teacher in those content areas teach it, even though Pennsylvania is being a little bit more lenient with that. So if we decide to offer it as a business credit, we'll have a business teacher teach it. If we're going to offer it as a math credit, we'll have a math teacher teach that, and so on. If you look a little bit further down, the State Board of Education proposed academic standards. So if you click on those, you can see everything that would need to be covered. Again, the requirement is only at the, oh, that did not link out to where I thought it was going to link out to. PDE is working on their web page, so I'll go back and put the new link in for that. But essentially, it's for 9 through 12, so it talks about the standards that we need to cover at those levels. However, it also drills down into grades prior to that, to what would lead up to a personal finance course. Whatever group we begin to instruct at the high school with this, so if we say this is going to be a 10th grade course for everybody, the first year that we teach this in 26-27 that it's required, if we say all 10th graders will get this, then moving forward just every 10th grader would need to get that. It doesn't mean that we have to go and teach every 9th through 12th grader that course in that year and then, you know, beyond that catch up. Our team is developing a plan, and once we have that, we'll propose it at this group and also include it in the program of study, which eventually gets board approval. Right now, we are thinking about potentially the business level course. We right now teach the Future Ready skills course in the business department. We're thinking about something related to that, either making that a half a course and making this half a course, or some sort of combination. Again, it can't be together, but as 2 separate credits or half credits. The other thing that we're thinking about is making it super relevant for students. And when are they really going to need to know this information? We're thinking as they get to be older within the high school, about the time that they're going off to college, about the time they're going off to career, knowing how to invest money, how to use credit cards, things of that nature. It might even be a math credit for students who are not necessarily mathematically inclined but want to take a course that they find very relevant to what they're going to do after they graduate. So maybe a personal finance also as a math course for seniors or junior seniors. We're still trying to figure that out. So those are some of the things that we've been throwing around with regard to that. But again, more to come. We still have time for this. And we do teach some of those skills across those standards at younger grades as well.
Now, is that an elective, or is that going to be for all?
Everyone
Mandatory.
has to do it. Yeah,
Okay.
It'll be mandatory for
I
everybody.
thought you said that. I'm thinking, okay, but long overdue.
Agreed. Any questions on that?
No, I think it's desperately needed, so he's great.
I'm excited about that. I really am. I think it's going to really help kids to do better in their futures. I mean, my son's already thinking about investing and stuff, and he wants me to get him set up to do it. And I'm like, wow, this is crazy. And he didn't even have that course.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, definitely going to be thought-provoking for, I think, our students, for sure.
Very.
The next area we have is comprehensive planning. So the Northern Lehigh School District has 2 different plans. We usually put out a gifted service plan that's like our NLSD plan, and then one that is required by the state of Pennsylvania. The one is just more user-friendly to take a look at and explains things, I think, in more readable terms. The PDE one is sometimes questions change throughout the course of comprehensive planning. Every time we come through a new cycle, there may be new things that they want us to respond to. What we respond to is still in our plan, but it's just more readable. So you can see both versions of the plan are there. This is the one that's our NLSD plan. So this is currently up for public review on our website. If you go to comprehensive planning and you scroll to the bottom, you'll see this plan. And also you'll see the other version of it too, which is, again, like I said, it's a printout from the tool that we have to use at the state level, and it's not as readable or user-friendly, but you can see those both on the website. The Gifted Services Planning Committee came together on September 30th. We reviewed our current plan. We received input from a variety of stakeholders, including some students, and made suggestions for updates to that plan. One of our school psychologists, Mr. Marks, met with our SST team in some of the schools, especially within Slatington, to talk about gifted identification. As students come over from Peters, third grade is kind of an area we target, and we look at data related to many of our third grade students to see through that screening process if we should test them for gifted. We always take parent recommendations, teacher recommendations, things of that nature as well, but that's kind of an area where we screen students. We currently have 21 students identified in the gifted program K through 12. The state requires that we examine gifted identification and proportionality. So what does our gifted population look like for males and females, for students of different race, for students that have, maybe also have an IEP as well as a GIEP. So there's different things that we look at and see what's happening with our population versus across the state. Pennsylvania is also put together a committee across the state to look at proportionality in general. So that's an area that they're focused on for this year as well. Gifted trainings, we have to train our gifted facilitators. We have 2 of those. We have one that facilitates gifted K through 6 and one that facilitates gifted 7 through 12 currently. They receive training through boot camp style trainings. We also need to train the rest of our principals. We have to train all of our content area, regular classroom teachers as well. So we're working on that training. We're looking to roll something out on that in January, kind of a gifted 101 type of training that everyone would get. Another area that they're focused on is the gifted education budget. Typically what we do as far as our gifted education budget is we work through what the GIEPs look like, some project-based ideas that students and our gifted facilitators have, and then we move forward with that. There's not usually a high cost associated with that, but they are asking us, what do you put away for gifted within the budget? We don't typically budget for that. We just, look at what comes in. So we are proposing moving forward for next year's budget to put $500 for each of the buildings, or $1,000 elementary, $1,000 secondary, into the budget, just to have money set aside so that our gifted facilitators can use that for field trips. They can use it for projects that they're doing in each of their buildings, whatever they feel is appropriate for that, with approval, obviously. And then our numbers fluctuate. Right now we're a little bit heavier at the secondary level than we are at the elementary, so we would have that money and be able to use that as needed. So does anyone have questions on that gifted services? Again, it's posted. It needs a 28-day public review, but we're not looking to approve things until March or February, March, when we have to do all of the components of the comprehensive plan. Okay. All right, the last one I have is just some sharing out of my experience that I recently went on in October. So in October, I had a unique opportunity to participate in the Global Leadership Development Program in Panama. It was a truly transformational experience. I travel quite a bit, and this was very unique for me. I applied, interviewed, and was accepted through their program. It was put on by PASA, which is the Pennsylvania Association of School Administrators, in conjunction with Educational Tours, EF Tours. That's the group that we're going to be doing our student trips with as well. There were 4 people in Pennsylvania that were chosen to go, and about 30 across the U.S. They went from Ohio, Texas, Colorado, New York, Indiana, and Massachusetts. And then along with those states, we have a representative in our state, which is Megan Schaefer, who's been working with us on the EF Tours student side of things. So she participated with the Pennsylvania cohort, and then her respective colleague in each of those states also participated. So for those of you who aren't familiar, Panama is located in Central America between Costa Rica and Colombia. It's a tiny little country. It's the size of about South Carolina. They have 4.5 million people, so it's about 130th out of 200 countries about size. What is unique about Panama is the Isthmus of Panama, which is where the Panama Canal is. So if you look kind of in the middle of the country where that orange box is, that's where it becomes very important. That is the connection between the Pacific and Atlantic Ocean and really impacts countries all around the world. This is the itinerary that we had, and I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this slide. You'll see us kind of dive into this as I go through it. There's also, every time I travel, I make a book, so I will share this book if you want to pass it around. A lot of what you'll see up here is also in the book. Prior to the trip, we were asked to select either 3 articles or a book to read, and then while we were on the trip, we were asked to journal, and then when we returned, how we're going to apply what we learned to Northern Lehigh. So this is the book that I chose to read, which was Empowering Global Citizens, with really a focus on 7 through 12, because our students at the secondary level are going to be the ones who are going on the trips. This is day 1, which we arrived in Panama. This is a very unique experience looking out of the plane. If you can look down, you'll see kind of dots of color. Those are all of the ships that are waiting to go through the Panama Canal. So you can see it in the kind of dark of the day, the ships that are sitting there waiting to go through. This is day 2. This was our first full day in Panama. What we did is we cleaned the beaches under the bridges of the Americas. You can see the bridge and you can see a ship getting ready to go through the canal there. These are some of our other pictures. On the left-hand side of this, we did the beach cleanup. So we plastic bottles, shoes that have washed up, styrofoam. We cleaned the beach with a group, and you can see them in the blue shirts there. And then our whole group was in pink. So we gathered quite a bit of garbage from everyone that comes through the Panama Canal and all of the people that visit that area. Over in the next column, you can see we visited the City of Knowledge, which was where the United States installation was when we used to control the Panama Canal. They've now changed that area into an area of business people, people in, at the intellectual level that come together and try to figure out how to deal with the problems that are in Panama due to consumerism. So that's the next column. And then the last one was when we visited the EF Tours facility, which in Panama, that's where they have their Latin American headquarters. And the top right-hand group, that's Megan with the sign, and then the 4 of us from Pennsylvania who participated in the trip. That evening, we enjoyed an authentic dinner in Casco Viejo, which is the old city, which is spelled wrong in that book because it actually spell checked it and put the wrong thing in there. But you can see where we had the dinner and then some of the city there as well. On day 3, we took a boat ride on Gontoon Lake, which is attached to the Panama Canal. We went out to the national park. We had an authentic meal in Casco Viejo, and then got a chance to walk around the city a bit, visited the canal administration, the Panama Canal, the locks, and then you'll see a nice view of the city in the evening. So this was our trip. We got to see at this point how all of that garbage we had cleaned up impacts some of the animals that are in the environment. You can see iguanas, you can see bats, monkeys, there were sloths in the trees, there were all sorts of animals that we got to get up pretty close to. Monkeys were jumping on the top of the boat and things like that. It was pretty cool. On the right-hand side, you'll see some of the authentic food that we ate. And then again, you can see the group that kind of gave us the lay of the land and some of the information of what we were going to see when we were out on the boats. So those are our tour guides for that experience. This is the Panama Canal. So up in the top left-hand side, you can see the administration building. On the right-hand side, you can see a description of how the canal actually works and how the locks are segregated from one ocean to the other, including the lake that we went out onto. The orangish building on the left is part of the canal, so we got a chance to watch an IMAX movie in there, which I would highly recommend watching. It was incredibly informative, and they're actually expanding the Panama Canal. because right now it's getting too small for the current ships that exist. So the ships are just becoming much larger. The amount of cargo that they carry is becoming even, much, much larger. Those little silver kind of train-looking things in the middle are called mules. So what happens is anytime a boat is going to pull into the canal, somebody jumps on that ship and guides it through the canal. They don't let the captain of that ship come through on their own. And then those little mules will actually pull that ship through. For every ship that goes through, it's anywhere from $500,000 to $1 million per ship. If there's multiple ones that go through, then obviously that cost is cut down by how many can get through at a time. But typically you're looking at like one ship because of the size of them. So I know some people do go on cruises and things to the Panama Canal. That's probably why the cost is so expensive, because it's so expensive to actually go through there. And then there's a nice view of the city in the evening. It's a very diverse country. You'll see along the shorelines a lot of high-rises, a lot of very wealthy people live on the coast, and then inland you'll see a lot of subsidized housing, a lot of homeless, things of that nature. So a very big contrast to the money coming into the country and then the conditions that some people live in. On day 4, we went down the Chagres River to an indigenous Embera tribe. So we went to visit the village and then also enjoyed a cultural farewell dinner. So here are some of the pictures from the tribe that we visited. Almost, 3/4 of the left-hand side of that. The top one is their school. So the tribe actually has teachers from the country that come into their village to teach. They have a first, second, and third grade classroom, a fourth, fifth, and sixth grade classroom, and that's all that is required in Panama for education. If students or children in this village want to go to high school, they have to take a boat ride, which is almost half an hour to an hour down a river, get on a bus, go almost another hour to school, do what they need to do there, and then come back all of that way. And I can tell you, we were in the middle of a rainstorm out on the water in a boat. So, those are the things that some of the kids are experiencing in order to go to school beyond 6th grade. So you can have a 7th grader going through that process to be educated. So pretty eye-opening. Up in the top middle is one of the people in the village. His grandfather actually was somebody that had trained one of the astronauts. So you can see that clipping down at the bottom. We learned a lot about the tribe, the village, and this is a group that actually lives now. So when the Panama Canal was given back to the people of Panama from the United States, they declared all of the land around there a park, a national park, so that no one would try to move into that land. So that's where this tribe lives, but it has changed their life quite a bit because they're not allowed to cut down trees, they're not allowed to kill and sell animals, things of that nature that they typically did. And then on the far right, going down that column, that's actually the president's house on the top, and then the farewell dinner that we went to on the bottom. And then our flight was a little bit later, so we actually got a chance to run out and do a quick hike. So we went up Incon Hill and got a chance to hike and look down on the city and the places that we had traveled to. So this is some of the things that we saw. There's a capybara, a toucan, some of the animals that you don't get to see every day. And then there's a plaque for when President Carter had returned the Panama Canal to the Panamanian people. And then on the left-hand side, you can see all of the big cargo that has come through and it being stored there. So how does this apply back here at Northern Lehigh? So again, I had that pre-reading that I did. So some of the themes are leadership and civic engagement, cultural awareness and exchange, and global competencies. So these are the things that I'm looking to focus on as we have some of these trips that we're going to be running with our students, and then also how we're going to incorporate them into the curriculum. So the book insights are included there, what I experienced in Panama, and then some of the next steps that I'd be looking to work on with our administration, teachers, and then our students as they experience their trips. Our first one not being to the national parks, and our second one being to Italy, and then our 4-year cycle of where we're looking to go. So that's my quick version of a really wonderful trip.
What do you think the students will like the most?
I think it's going to be eye-opening for many of the students who haven't been outside of Slatington or just the area to see what it's like in other countries and to experience that. Even within our own country, many students haven't been on a plane before, haven't had to go through that process of, checking in and getting on an airplane and going through all of that. So I think it's just going to be new experiences that will hopefully, as they're older, make them more competent and comfortable kind of branching out and going and exploring the world.
I'm glad we're able to do it. I think it's fabulous. They're never going to have this chance again, a lot of those kids.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we're really trying to make it as affordable as possible. So we've just, as you and I were talking when we first came in, we had our first fundraiser, and students who were fundraising individually. They were doing a hoagie or a pretzel sandwich fundraiser, and they've raised quite a bit of money already. So that's only our first one that we kicked off. We're trying to do one each month so that the students have that opportunity to attend. Okay.
Any other questions, comments? All right, we'll close the education committee meeting. And we will begin with policy, I guess.
Mr. Williams takes it. She doesn't have a committee tonight, so you can do it, because Natalie gets one later, so you can have your shot. There you go.
May I just make a quick suggestion? We got about a dozen policies to go through this evening. If anybody needs to do a bathroom break, now may be a good time. As well as I'm really happy to see community members here this evening. Just know we're about to go through 12 different policies. So if you need to take a break or anything, that would be a good time. Okay?
Do you want me to start?
You good? Yeah, we can start.
Okay.
Mrs. Culp,
All
go
right.
ahead.
I'd like to open up the policy committee meeting. Dr. Stoll.
Okay. As Dr. Link said, we do have quite a bit of policy, but they're kind of in themes, so I'll go through as quickly as I can, but give it the respect that it needs to get in order to be covered. So the first one this evening is enrollment in the district. This policy was last revised in 2023. However, it does need to be revised again because we're looking now at active duty military families, and there's some language within these policies that have changed to make it easier for families that are traveling around the country or around different lands and trying to enroll their children in school to begin. So the first one, click on this. All right. So on page 2, you'll see number 1 and number 2. Students experiencing educational instability. So if we have students that are homeless, foster care, for any reason have educational instability, this applies as well. And then it's for children of active duty military families. This allows those families to enroll their children in a place that they believe that they're going to be moving to. So if they get their military orders 45 days in advance of that, if they know that they're going to be stationed, they're moving into Slatington, they can produce those orders to us and say, we're going to be moving here, we want to enroll our child, and then once they get here, move in, within the 45 days, they have to present all of the normal enrollment documentation that they would. This just helps facilitate them getting here and getting their kids started, so there's no delay or lapse in that education if they're jumping around quite a bit. This also was reordered to match PSBA. So PSBA puts out their model policy. Ours had all of the information with the exception of the new green stuff. However, it was in a much different order, so it was reordered to match. Okay, and then this policy is mandated to comply with state law and regulations. Any questions on that? Do we have the approval of committee members present to move this for first reading at the November board meeting? Okay. All right, the next one is eligibility of non-resident students. So this was last revised in 2023. They added children of active duty military families to this one as well. So you can see that on the bottom of page 2 and the top of page 3. And then prior to this being revised, it said that this was in accordance with board policy. They added that it's also in accordance with the law. So those phrases were added, and I'll show you where. So it's the bottom of page 2 and the top of page 3. You can see the active duty military information. Any questions on that policy? Okay, do we have the ability from the board members present to move that to a first reading at the board meeting in November? Okay. Next one is graduation requirements. This was last revised in 2023. Again, we've added information about active duty military families. This policy is recommended for legal liability purposes regarding adoption and posting of graduation requirements in compliance with state law and regulations. So this one is on page 3. You can see information again to support children of active duty military families moving into the district, and then also trying to get them to graduate on time. Many times what happens is when people move from one district to another, there's sometimes credit loss. So trying to give them applicable credit as much as we can to ensure that they're graduating on time with their cohort once they move into 9th grade. Any questions on that? Okay, do we have the ability from the board members present to move that for a first reading in November to the board meeting? Okay, the next one is educational opportunity for military children. This is a completely new policy. This is not something we had previously. It's used to address the compact regarding educational opportunity for military children and the PA school code regarding advanced enrollment requirements for military children. So much of what we already talked about with regard to enrollment. So it's that advanced enrollment piece, allowing families to say, hey, I'm going to be moving to the Slatington area. I'd like to enroll my children. And then once they get here, giving us the rest of that documentation. And again, making sure that once they are on track, that we get them to graduation in a timely manner like their cohorts would. And again, that's a whole new policy. So everything in here is green. There's definitions, what it means to be in the military, what qualifies, what the advanced enrollment looks like, who's responsible, and then any guidelines. Any questions on that? Do we have the ability of the board members present to move that to a first reading in November? Okay. Next one is transportation. Transportation was last revised in 2023. The changes for this one mainly come from the bus stop cameras now on that arm that comes out, so the stop sign, trying to ensure that people do not pass by the school buses, and it's mainly for the safety of children. In this policy, there's no actual word revision. It's just on page 2, one of the citations just refers to the new law that allows us to put cameras on that stop arm that comes out. And that is, I'll show it to you. It's just that number 11 you see way up top that's in green, and it just it refers to one of the laws that allow us for that. So do we have the ability to move that policy forward for a first reading at the board meeting in November? Okay, all right. All right, new theme. So now we're moving on to some other ones. The next 2 policies are public comment at board meetings. So this policy moved from public participation to public comment, really showing that the board is the one participating in the board meetings and that the public can offer comment. It was revised with regard to case law that's come up recently, things around the Sunshine Act. It also wants to recognize diverse viewpoints, so not allowing somebody to kind of commandeer the conversation and focus it in one area, but giving everyone an opportunity to have public comment at a board meeting. It allows the district also to have flexibility about when that public comment happens. Some have a public comment period. Some allow it when the agenda items come up. We kind of have both of those, so we're able to keep that flexibility in our policy. And then previously, if there was a member of the public that wanted to speak and they were a resident of the community, they had to announce, this is my name, this is my address, this is what I want to talk about. For safety reasons, people no longer have to list their address. They can just say, I'm from Slatington. They can say what municipality they live in, but they don't necessarily have to say their actual address for safety reasons. So those are the updates to this policy. Any questions on that? Do we have the ability from the board members present to move this for a first reading in November at the board meeting? Okay. The next policy was originally called opening exercises and flag displays. It now also includes moment of silence. The purpose of this update to the policy was to require a moment of silence to observe the anniversary of September 11th of 2001. So this policy is a very short policy. It just says that annually during instructional hours there will be a moment of silence for students and staff to observe the anniversary of September 11th. Any questions on that? Do we have the ability of the members present to move that one to a first reading at the board meeting in November? Okay. All right, next theme is school safety and security. So 805 is emergency preparedness and response. So through most of these policies, the police departments that respond to school districts or support school districts or have SROs in school districts were referred to as local police departments. They have now changed that to local law enforcement agencies because there's different ways that school districts can go about receiving that law enforcement support. It doesn't necessarily have to be their local police department. For instance, in our situation at Peters, it's the Pennsylvania Police, State Police. So it's not always your local police department like it is in Slatington or things of that nature. So that's mainly the changes throughout this policy. Additionally, in the previous policy, I think it was last month, we had talked about there's now the option to have 180 days of school and or 900 or 990 hours. That was also updated in this to be the or. So it could be either the 900, 990 hours or the 180 days. So those are the two main changes in this policy. Any questions on that? Do we have the ability of the board members present to move that one for first reading to the board in November? Mm-hmm. Okay. Next one is relations with law enforcement. This was last revised in 2020. Again, you're going to see changes in this one about how we refer to local law enforcement. Also changed in here is incident reporting and how that gets reported to the state. Also, what's included in how the MOU is developed with not local law enforcement, but the law enforcement agencies now. And then also if the law enforcement agency that signs off on that disagrees with the incident report with the school district. We come together and we discuss that data, but if there is any discrepancy, how that discrepancy is handled. So that's the main updates within this policy. Any questions on that? Do we have the ability of the board members present here to move that one to November for a first reading? All right. Next one, school security personnel. This one was last revised in 2023. This talks about under third-party vendor that we used to have the Office of Safe Schools in Pennsylvania, but then PCCD has taken over a lot of that safety and security. That's where all of our grants come from, and a lot of the information that's handed down for safety and security and mental health updates. The Office of Safe Schools in PDE is going away, and PCCD is going to be taking over all of those safety-related things. So this is a change within the policy to show that. Also, the school safety and security coordinator, who is Chief Jones for us, there's a certain training that he has to participate in, or any new person in that position. So that training that has to occur is updated in this policy. We talked a little bit earlier in one of the other policies about reporting to the state and how we report those incidents. That's been updated in this policy as well. Within 30 days of a court approval or appointment of a school police officer, so if we were to get a new SPO, what typically happens is they have to be sworn in. We now have to actually show that documentation that they were approved. So we have to send that documentation in, not just say this person has gone through the process and is approved. Under requirements on page 5 is where we now report the safety information to. So the School Safety and Security Committee, in addition to the PA Department of Ed and the PA Commission on Crime and Delinquency, which was PCCD. And I think those are all of the updates in that one. Any questions on that? Do we have the ability of the board members present to move that one to a first reading in November? All right, next one, municipal government relations. This was last revised in 1997. So this is in need of some update. This one is, again, with that local law enforcement agency, so it's changed that language. And also the MOU that was described earlier. So terminology and legal citations related to coordination with law enforcement agencies and development of the Memorandum of Understanding were updated. And again, this was somewhat outdated, this policy, so any other PSBA recommendations that were in there were updated as well. So you'll see a lot of green in here and then a lot of stuff that has been taken out just to get it up to date. Any questions on that one? Okay, do we have the ability of the board members present to move that one to first reading in November? It's like a broken record over here. All right, last one. So most of our policies are updated because we get PSBA recommendations, laws change, things of that nature. This one was one that came out of the business office for updates, but it also was in conjunction with federal insurance law and HIPAA changing at the federal level, which got handed down. So this policy was last revised in 2018, and I'll show you number 17 and number 18 are where the major changes came. Make this a little bit bigger. So again, this focuses on personal health information and how the district can disclose that and who they can disclose it to. You'll see some basic things in here change just because instead of calling it the business office, we called it the Human Resources Department. We have business office staff is now human resource generalists. So some of these things have changed in there. But generally, when we get down to the main changes, which are number 17 and 18. Sorry, let me catch up here. So 17 was added to address how personal health information, or PHI, related to reproductive health care can be shared. And that's part of a lot of the policy changes that you'll see coming forward. And in number 18, this was added to address the ways in which PHI may not be disclosed or used. So again, this all stems from federal law. But these are things that we're allowed to share, not allowed to share, and what that looks like. And then above here were just some things that we clarified with regard to PHI. Okay. Any questions on that? And again, we didn't have much choice. That changed what came from federal law. All right, do we have the ability of the board members present to move that one for first reading in November? And that's all the policy there is for tonight.
Any questions? I'd like to close the policy committee meeting. And we will open up the extra and co-curricular. Yes.
Thank you. Fall sports report. We're going to end our fall season on Wednesday. We have our fall awards night. We're going to honor seniors. We're also going to go over some team highlights and then some major award winners on Wednesday. So in regards to that, fairly successful fall season. We were able to retain, I'm going to say 99.2% of our athletes that started the season. We actually picked up a couple throughout the season due to transferring into the district. So we have a large number of students that are continuing to be a part of our athletic program, and we continue to see those numbers rise year over year. So anybody have any fall sports questions?
I just think the participation is great.
Yes, yeah, the numbers are outstanding and continuing to go up, and that doesn't include the non-athletics. So like when we talk about the marching band, I think it's on the rise. If you look at a lot of our other co-curricular activities that I'm not involved with, but those activities, kids are really want to be a part of it. So it's good stuff. Any other questions, comments?
Mr. Geis, if I may,
Yeah.
I just want to give a shout out to the marching band. They competed at the Cavalcade of Bands this past weekend out at Cumberland Valley. They sounded amazing. They worked really hard throughout the season. Regionally, they took home a lot of first and second place honors. They were 6th place in their division out at the state finals. So just kudos to them. A lot of hard work. And like I said, they sound great. A lot of improvement.
Thank you. Our next one here, and I've been mentioning this the last couple of years, the Colonial League was looking to move middle school soccer from the spring season to the fall. And the reason this triggered was because JV participation in the league has diminished, where you have a number of students who want to play varsity and not as many students want to play JV. So the move is we have pretty good numbers in our middle school program, is moving that from the spring season to the fall season. So the league is developing a varsity junior high model. To bring everybody up to speed, a little bit of reminders. There's 4 different levels in PIAA. There's varsity, which is 9 through 12. There's JV, which is generally 9 through 11. There's junior high, which is 7, 8, 9, and there's middle school, which is 7 and 8. So the difference is a junior high team can play a middle school team. A JV team cannot play a junior high team. 9th graders, before our first scrimmage, have to be either put on JV varsity or a junior high team, and that's a PIAA rule. So what happens is we have freshmen that are either playing varsity. I'm talking as a league. They're playing varsity, and you might have some sophomores and juniors who do not want to play JV that might not be as talented as some of those freshmen. So the JV numbers have dwindled league-wide. So just to kind of give everybody a timeline, we are going to have middle school soccer this spring. Okay, that's going to run, so that's spring of 25. However, the fall of 25, the turnaround is it's going to be a junior high, now junior high boys and junior high girls. It'll no longer be a co-ed program. It's going to be a split program, because a lot of teams that don't offer middle school soccer in the spring offer a boys middle school and a girls middle school. I'll give you an example: Moravian Academy, Palisades. They offer this stuff, so it kind of fits for them as well. So what I'm asking here at this point is we're gonna need to. We have a coach right now in the spring, and I'm gonna lean on Dr. Link at this point. If we could ask at this time to go towards Monday's board, if we can offer a position for each, the middle school soccer in the fall, Or is that something that we need to look at further?
I would prefer to take the time and go back and look at Schedule E to the current contract and see how that would fit into what effects that would have on Schedule E of the contract.
Okay.
What I'm hearing is we have some time.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh yeah.
Okay.
There's no time frame for you that would make it necessary to happen now. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
Brian, would the model we follow 7, 8, and 9?
I'm sorry, say again?
The model we follow would be 7, 8, and 9?
For the fall,
Yes.
would be varsity junior high.
And junior high is 7, 8, 9?
Correct. However, what we've been doing in a number of our sports is offering junior high as a middle school where it's mostly 7th and 8th grade. But we then have the ability, somebody who's a freshman may need some more time to play on that
Can
team.
9th graders be double rostered?
No.
Okay.
They can be double rostered if you have a varsity JV. They can be
Okay.
double rostered.
Okay.
You cannot double roster varsity junior high.
Okay.
All right, any other questions? Hopefully you're able to drive down Bulldog Lane and see the softball, baseball renovations. They are, and Chris help me out here, I believe they are on time according to the schedule we have. So I would say in the next 3 weeks, you're gonna see significant improvements and it's gonna look a lot more like baseball, softball in the next 3 or 4 weeks. So that's the good, you know, and unfortunately we have had a lot of dry conditions. However, that's great construction weather and they're able to really get the work done. So Chris, I don't know if you want to add anything in regards to softball, baseball?
Not really. I mean, you touched on most of it. If you do get a chance, come in the daytime so you can see a lot of the work. The majority of the pitching tunnels are done. The concrete's poured, poles are up. Dugouts, the poles are installed. The concrete was poured today. The retaining wall on baseball was poured last week, I believe. They're backfilling that so that they can start adding the stone and pouring concrete for that. The outline of the infield for baseball, you can pretty much tell where the outline of the infield would be, where they're going to backfill with infield mix. You can pretty much see where that's at, as well as the fence line, because that's now rough soil. They're starting to actually grade that now to where they're going to start to keep it for your sod. Some fence posts are installed. The outside fence posts, which some of them are going to be taller to accommodate sound systems and cameras. Some of those are poured, but as far as timeline, I think they're actually, in some aspects, they're ahead of schedule.
Any questions? Baseball, softball project?
We know where our kids are gonna be playing in the spring?
We are very close in finalizing a schedule.
Chris and I, we made a site visit to another facility, but we're baseball, in regards to baseball, we're just dotting our I's, crossing our T's. We have that plan's in place.
Right.
In regards to softball, we're very close to doing the same. Very close to doing the same. And as soon as we have a definitive answers from who we need to have answers from, we can definitely share that information.
All right.
I would share that we had a very productive meeting with some representatives from Walnut Port last Monday evening.
Good.
And good collaborative conversation.
Good to hear.
Will it require any kind of board action to allow the team to play there on different fields or anything for, I'm thinking insurance purposes perhaps, or whatever, I don't.
So what we do is, in anything, like say if, when we play at Breyfogle, we provide a certificate of insurance liability, so that covers that particular field, and that also, we're like multi-covered, especially with the league, as District 11, the state, as well as Northern Lehigh certificate.
But you don't need any board action?
I don't see any.
No, it doesn't appear us. Yeah, but let us literally reduce the agreement to writing. And I don't mean necessarily like a contract, but what it's going to look like. And if there's anything in there where we would have to be like, I would need board approval, we'll certainly put it in front of you.
Now, will we be transporting our athletes to whatever field we're going to be using for practices and games?
We will have to provide that option for our student athletes that
Okay.
need it.
Okay.
Yes.
And it, depending on what time we're gonna practice as well.
Correct.
Yeah, so
Understand.
that's another piece of the puzzle.
Okay, I figured, yeah.
Yes,
Mhm.
yes,
Yeah, you're competing with youth and
yeah.
everything else.
All right, any other baseball, softball questions? All right, the last one, we had a fantastic event on October 18th here at the stadium. It was our First Responders Appreciation Night. We had district administration. Dr. Lincoln, you say about 50 first responders?
At least 50 throughout the night. They couldn't all necessarily be there for the entire game. Some came later, some came early, and then had to leave. Some of them were actually still on duty, and if a call came through, they had to go support. But multiple first responder agencies, as well as state police, were there, and we really received good feedback and just appreciation for recognizing the work that they do.
And credit to Mr. Pine, he put together a beautiful, let's say 8 to 9 minute video, stuff from like Fire Prevention Week, different our career fair, so bonfire where our first responders are being proactive in our community and able to put that with interaction with our students. District 11 offers a free beautiful digital display board, outdoor digital display for every school district in District 11. So District 11 purchased this, and we're able to rent that for free, and they drop it off. And then, like I said, Mr. Pine put together a video, put that up there, and then that we're able to salute our first responders. And again, that was from our 6 fire departments, our 3 police departments, plus the state police, as well as Northern Valley Ambulance. Every chief or appointee, our director, we brought out for the coin toss, which people seem to enjoy that. So they come out for the coin toss and just kind of celebrate them. I know they don't always get the recognition that they deserve, but I feel like that was just a great event that we as a school district were able to honor them.
Just kind of 2 more thoughts on that. That was all at no cost to the district, other than the volunteerism of our administration during that evening, and the food and refreshments that were provided to the first responders was also through donations to the district, so we were able to fund that as well. Just kind of one last final thought on that is those group of community service members are certainly earning the support they deserve right now and what they're doing for our immediate community and the surrounding community. So kudos to all of them for what they are currently battling and have been battling.
For sure.
Well said. Also to kind of sum it up, and it just seems like all of our football games have a little piece or particular event that we have. So we're going to try to look to see if we can continue this again next year, as well as maybe relook at our military appreciation night and some other things as we go through. So definitely some exciting nights, and I can't say enough. And administration stepping up and doing all that for first responders. So it was a very, very, very good night. Any questions, comments, concerns?
So I guess if no one has any questions, we'll close the extracurricular then.
And that means we're done here,
Yeah.
right there.
Thank you, everyone.